Hello friends, it's Wendy Rule here, and I would like to take a few moments to share with you some info and of course a song relating to the upcoming Scorpio dark moon, the darkest of the dark moons. And that's going to happen early Tuesday morning for those of us here in the US, and that's going to make it Tuesday afternoon and Tuesday night for those of you in Europe and Australia, New Zealand, etc. Scorpio energy is all about the energy of descent, of going deep, of embracing darkness, of willingly entering into the underworld and embracing its gifts of transformation. Now, every dark moon holds a quality of descent, of turning inward. Every dark moon asks us to slow down, to embrace stillness. Now combine that with Scorpio and you've got a very, very deep, dark moon. For those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, we're preparing to celebrate the festival of Samhain, an honouring of the ancestors, the final harvest before the winter. And although it's going to be Beltane in the Southern Hemisphere, at this dark moon, there's going to feel a seed of that Samhain energy. The two are always coexisting, Beltane and Samhain, life and death, spring and autumn. Regardless of what hemisphere you're in, this Scorpio dark moon is calling us inward, in touch with our deepest emotions, sometimes bringing up some shadowy aspects of our emotional world, maybe some shame or guilt or depression. That's okay, we all go through this. This Scorpio time reminds us that death and descent are a necessary part of life. Scorpio asks us to embrace change, to allow the old to die, to make way for the new. And this Scorpio dark moon happens to also be a partial solar eclipse. So that energy of darkness, of turning away from the light, of turning inward is amplified. Oh, I was going to say, I've acquired some new property. I got this gorgeous doll's house as an early birthday gift from my son Ruben and his girlfriend Sarah when they were visiting. And my birthday is on October 31st, which is Samhain in the Northern Hemisphere, Beltane in the Southern Hemisphere. So I love this energy. I feel very comfortable with it. This energy of embracing the healing gifts of the darkness. When I first moved into this house about 18 months ago, the first week I found this giant snake skin on the land. Look at that. To me, this snake skin is a very Scorpio gift. It reminds us that we always have the potential for change and for renewal. And when snakes are shedding their skin, they experience a period of time of great vulnerability where even the scales on their eyes cloud over, and it might seem that they don't know where they're going. And it can feel like this for us too when we're going through that scorpionic process of renewal, of shedding the old, of transformation. Sometimes it feels like we just can't find our way, but we need to sit bravely, strongly, quietly with that energy. Let it be. Give time for the old skin to be let go of, and then to be rewarded with a shiny new skin, a new you, a new beginning. Scorpio is a water sign, and it's fixed water. Water that wants to stay where it is. And if we think about this in nature, what does water do when it's held in one place on earth? It sinks down deep, 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 creating deep pools and caves, down, 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 so deep that it becomes dark and mysterious. That's that Scorpio energy. Go deep like water, seeping through stone, tenacious, holding its strength, bravely continuing that journey of descent, of the crone, of the underworld. Scorpio these days is ruled by the planet Pluto. I know has been downgraded to a dwarf planet, but I'm not going with that. I love the energy of Pluto, named after an aspect of the underworld god in Greek mythology. And Pluto is also connected with the word Plusios, which means rich. So it really hints that if we're willing to do this descent, then great wealth of possibility, gifts of insight and wisdom like jewels in the underworld, like those ruby seeds of pomegranate that Persephone eats when she's down there, then we are given access to these gifts if we're brave enough to descend into the darkness, to do the work that we need to do, to not be scared of those things that are uncomfortable. I'm going to do this song. It's from my album called World Between Worlds. And this is a very important song for me. I used to go through really, really heavy periods of depression for years and years, for decades I went through this. And you'll see that reflected in a lot of my writing in my earlier albums. And that rarely occurs these days. I guess I've navigated those dark realms over and over again, but I still find myself down there occasionally. This song and the story behind it were deeply healing for me, and I hope that they are for you as well. I learned this story in the wonderful transformative book Women Who Run with the Wolves, which is by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. The chapter in the book is called Singing Over the Bones. I'll tell the story first and then I'll sing the song. There is an old wise woman of the desert, and she goes out and she collects the bones of animals and she brings them back to her cave and she lays them out bone to bone to bone like a beautiful mosaic on the floor, joining the line of the vertebrae, femur to pelvis, the curve of the ribs, and finally placing the sacred skull. And then she begins to sing low and deep. And as she sings, sinew begins to bind the bones together. La 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 la, oh yeah yeah. La 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 la, oh yeah. She sings fur onto the bones. She sings flesh. She sings the heart into beating, the lungs into breathing. And suddenly the animal opens its eyes, leaps up from the floor of the cave and runs out wild into the desert night. And we are that animal, and we are that woman, and we are that night, and we are that cave, and we are that song. And when we think we have lost so much that we simply cannot survive, and yet we do, when grief or loss or depression has stripped us right back to the bone, we find this resilient part of ourselves, this part that says, live, 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 and we sing ourselves back into being. I find you lying whitened, bleached by sun and buried by the snow of winter. Hey, oh, hey, like a child, I had lost you, I had fallen was frozen. I had felt my mind was hollow, alone, singing to the bones, singing to the bones. Ooh, singing to the bones. Oh, the darkness soothes my sorrow, takes me through the line of reason, takes me to the place, the shadow, alone, singing to the bones, singing to the bones. Ooh, singing to the bones. Oh, this night is holier than I can fathom, and I see you turning back to face you. Singing to the bones, singing to the bones. Ooh, singing to the bones. Hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh, hey, oh. Le, 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 lo, 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 lo. Hey, oh, hey, oh. I wish you a very deep and sacred Scorpio dark moon. Hold space for those dark emotions. Be brave enough to sit with them. Do some divination. If you'd like to go a little deeper with this dark moon, head over to my Patreon page and join the Dark Moon tier, which is $10 a month. I've just shared my Scorpio Dark Moon Magic Meditation, where we go on a journey into the underworld to meet the crone. And I'm also going to offer everybody a discount on the World Between Worlds album that contains this song. If you head to my Bandcamp page and you use the code Scorpio20, you can get 20% off the download or the CD for this album, especially for those of us in the Northern Hemisphere. It's a really appropriate album for Samhain. Thank you so much for tuning in, and enjoy this partial solar eclipse and this Scorpio dark moon. Blessed be.